Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on my knitting channel, Nikitinaknits. Today I'm doing a review on Korean and Japanese patterns available in English and available for the purchase on Ravelry. And this is a part 1 of such review because there's so many patterns that I cannot just fit in one video. So I guess I will create part 2 and maybe even part 3 and 4, making sure I have space for all of these patterns in my videos. In this video, I'm only mentioning cardigans, sweaters, and vests, basically knitwear and something that I truly love to knit the most. And then second, maybe third video again about sweaters and cardigans and vests, and then maybe one video about accessories, but that's in the future. Before I begin, I would love to mention that these are not just random patterns from the internet to then create this video on YouTube. No, these are my favorites, my wish list, my personal wish list that I will knit for sure when I have time. The way I structured my video is I'm mentioning pattern name, obviously, then I'm shortly speaking about this design, where would I wear it, how I feel about it, and how would I use it within my wardrobe. Then I'm mentioning needle size and yarn weight. Also, I'm going to speak quite a lot about the yarn choice, the recommended yarn from the designer, and what I feel about it. Would I go for a recommended yarn? Would I substitute that? And if I do, what would I choose instead? A lot of times designers collaborate with quite expensive brands, which is amazing and I'm so happy for them, but not everybody can afford them. And sometimes I just don't really love the yarn choice of the designer and I have my personal wishes for this specific pattern. So my attention would fall quite a lot on the yarn choice because I think yarn choice is quite important, maybe even 50% of the success of the knitted garment. After the yarn choice, I'm going to speak about the construction, whatever information is available to us, because some of the designers are quite cool, they put tons of information, and some of them are also cool, but they just don't put a lot of information on Ravelry, unfortunately. So whatever I know, I'm going to share with you about these patterns. Every single pattern will have a link mentioned in the description box under this video. So whatever information you're lacking or you want to see the pattern, actually you go down, you click and you check everything. Size ranges, the finished centimeters of the garment, recommended positive ease, different pictures with different positive ease mentioned, color choices, and so on. So the first pattern, I'm already smiling when I'm thinking about it, is a Japanese pattern from Hello HYGGE Life. It's Diamond Aran Cardigan. It's quite oversized structured jacket with a high double folded collar that actually could be worn with a zipper or with buttons. I see this piece as a completely suitable outer layer piece because it's very thick and it's also structured. It has everything in it, moss stitch, cables, and so on. So I think it's going to be completely fine even in really cold autumn. I'm going to live in the north of Spain quite soon and it's really cold there sometimes, especially in winter. But instead of wearing a feather jacket, I could just wear this because it's quite oversized, so I could fit in something underneath for sure and it will be quite warm. If I add a very thin strand of mohair to that, it's going to be even warmer. So I think it's definitely worth the effort and it's going to be a timeless piece in our wardrobe. The yarn choice of the designer is Cascade Eco Merino DK. Is 100% merino that has a woolen span, and what I've read from the yarn description in the website of Cascade, that is quite lightweight yarn, so it has a lot of meterage, it's very thick, and that means it's very lightweight in the end. This is what I'm constantly looking for when I'm about to knit myself a jacket or anything that has a lot of texture and a lot of weight to that. I'm always like, okay, what is the thick, durable and very lightweight yarn? So since it's a woolen spun merino, it shouldn't be too prickly, but it's going to be quite durable because again it has a woolen spun. And I wouldn't go for anything else. I'd go for this yarn, and I never tried anything from Cascade, and I find they're a really cool brand. They produce high quality yarns for very affordable prices. The thing is, it's just not so available here in Europe. Of course it is, but it's harder to buy for me here in Spain than other brands. That's why I never tried with this yarn before. So I would go with this yarn for sure. And this yarn is also undyed, which I appreciate even more. First, because it might be even softer than dyed versions. And second, I always appreciate nature colors, just the sheep color as it is, mixed in different variations. This offers, I think, 10 shades of undyed yarn. I feel it's quite a lot. So of course I am excited to try this yarn for this specific project. This cardigan is a traditional drop shoulder construction that is quite popularized nowadays. This is when we pick up stitches for the back panel and start increasing with the short rows in the back, creating a shoulder slope behind our shoulder. Then you pick up stitches from the shoulder slope and you knit the front panel all the way down to the underarms, connecting with the back and then knitting flat all the way down. After you finish the jacket until your desired length, you just add the pockets, collar, then you pick the sleeves and you knit them until desired length, doing the ribbing. So this type of construction is heavily used in Japan and in Korea, so most patterns are going to be featured with this construction. The pattern is primarily text-based and charts are only included for the Aran stitch repeat, and this designer also includes video tutorials for complicated moments, which I'm always appreciating. Alright, the next pattern is Korean, is Olive Vest My Size, that's the name of the pattern, by Myung. It's a very gentle, beautiful, leaf-like lace design. I'm usually not so much into vest overall and lace overall, but this is the combination of two that I would wear so much. When I saw her pictures with the outfit that she mentions, I just fell in love with that. Depending on the yarn choice, it can be both summer garment and winter garment. I would actually need both for myself. So in summer is a breathable, for example, linen vest or top. And in winter, it can be quite warming piece, but still breathable for working in the office or working from home. Maybe wearing it under a t-shirt or a long sleeved official t-shirt. And there's a lot of other different versions as well. Design itself is all over lace pattern, featuring just a few tiny cables and a twisted rib around the v-neck and around the armholes and around the bottom. The design itself is so gentle, feather-like, is balancing between serenity and intelligence for me. It could be also perfect to go read in a library or go work in co-working. Just depending on the weather, you need to pick the right yarn choice and the right underneath layer for this vest because it's quite see-through. The recommended needle size is 4 millimeters and the gauge is 23 stitches per 10 centimeters. The recommended yarn is Luxe 5-ply from a Korean brand Nanhee yarns, which is a 50% wool and a 50% acrylic, and it's a sport weight. So it has 112 meters per 50 grams. No, per 40 grams. So I don't like anything synthetic or acrylic in my wardrobe, so I wouldn't go for this yarn. Instead, I think I would go for Semilla by BC Garn. Semilla has quite a few sisters in BC Garn brand, which is Semilla Melange, Semilla Pura, and so on. So Semilla, only that. So when you look at the way it's plied, it's very similar to the recommended yarn by the designer. So I'm assuming we can achieve a very close look to what the designer recommends. By the way, it's 100% wool, and the description says that it's not rustic, it's not pokey, and it's not peeling. So I'm excited to try, to be honest. And as for me, it's not so pricey, so that's great. About the construction, she doesn't really mention a lot of details about how it's knit, but as I know for now, that is knit top down seamlessly, and I imagine is the same as in the first pattern when you knit the back panel first, then pick up stitches, knit to the front, connect everything in the round underarms, knit towards desired length, and then work the colors separately. I don't think it's so much complicated, and we just need to follow the pattern, pay attention to details, and we're gonna get the finished garment. Next pattern is Korean and is Athens Sweater by Soup Knits or Manmi Choi. On Instagram, her account is Soup Knits. I'm following her for quite a while, watching her beautiful work. It's a cabled pattern that features bubbles in it. I personally would avoid them because I don't like them, but when I see bubbles on someone, I actually like them. So maybe they just don't suit me personally. What is quite interesting that they're placed really randomly inside the rhombs, and it doesn't look overwhelming, which sometimes can be with the bubbles design. The background for all of these beautiful rhombs and bubbles is actually a purl stitch, but I imagine we will have to knit it from the wrong side until a certain point and then start purling it when we join in the round. So if you're complicated with purls and if your wrists get complicated, maybe that's a point to consider. I don't mind purling, so I would go for that pattern. And also there's some moss stitch in between, in joining. So I think it's a very balanced, beautiful pattern design that a lot of us already tried the moss stitch, the cables and so on. And this sweater is actually placed in two different colors, red and off-white, like this really cool off-white. And I don't know, I always thought of having a cabled red sweater, and someone actually commented on my previous podcast that I should knit myself a red cabled sweater. And I'm like, yeah, that could be really cool. And I mentioned actually this Athens sweater to that comment. But I also really like cool off-white tones, and I always lean towards them. So it's a complicated choice. This pattern also mentions two styles of the neck, which is really nice. So the first one has this neckband and then really tall neck. And the second option does not have this neckband and just folds over, as we already did so many times in different patterns. So you can knit the same design, but just by using different color and different neck, you will create a quite different item. So the needle size is 4.5 millimeters and the gauge is 19 stitches per 10 centimeters. The weight of the yarn is a DK plus lace. The recommended yarn is Gepard Pure Lana, which is a 50% wool and 50% alpaca. I also heard that it's very soft to the skin. I would use that specific combination because this yarn has been on my list for quite a while, but since it's quite hard to get Gepard in Spain, where I live, I never tried that yarn before. I assume it's quite lightweight because of alpaca, which is really perfect for a structured garment like that. The construction is the same as I mentioned for other patterns, where you start at the back, you need the increases for the shoulder slopes, then picking up stitches, knitting the front panel, connecting things in the round, knitting down, and then picking up stitches for the sleeves. So as I said, very much the same. What is interesting is the neckband. So in the red version, she's using a welt stitch, or it's also called welt neckband, or just welt band. There are different names for that, but it's quite interesting and it's used quite a lot in Korean patterns, which I would like to try. I never did that. It basically stocking it, then you fold over and you connect to the stitch that is below, and you create a little bunch, which looks quite cute. So in this case, it imitates a quite thick seaming, and then you pick up stitches and you knit the collar all the way up. And in the white sample, there is no welt stitch, there is just double folded neckline. You choose what you prefer. Next pattern is Korean again. It's Herringbone Classic Sweater, a deep v-neck cozy sweater. I personally love v-necks, but what I don't like is when they're a bit too shallow. So I just don't see a point. It has to be rather a crew neck for me, or a quite deep v-neck. So if it's even too deep, we can wear something underneath, like a t-shirt like that. What I like is a very cozy feeling of it. If we could add some suri lace to that, suri alpaca lace, it would feel even more puffy and soft. And you can still notice there's a stitch pattern that you want to look at, but it doesn't overstimulate your brain. That I appreciate in the designs. It's quite hard to reach that point, the balancing middle point. I think this would also look very cute with a woolly skirt, you know, just a little bit A neck shaped woolly skirt, or jean skirt, or just normal jeans or trousers. I think it goes with everything. Another positive thing of wearing a deep v-neck sweater is that you cool down and you're staying warm at the same time. So for me, for example, right now I'm speaking in front of the camera, and as I'm speaking I'm getting hot, but if I would be in somewhere cold place, like we're going to move in the north, it's going to be quite cold, I would like to stay warm, but I would like to cool down somehow. And when you open your chest is where the warmth goes out. So it's very perfect for people who again work in the offices and who have to speak or do a lot of brain work where they get hot. I know how it feels when you have to work a lot with your brain and you just get hot, but it's still cold outside. And I think these pieces of knitwear are perfect for that. With the yarn choice is quite complicated because when I clicked on the yarn mentioned on her Ravelry design, it led me to a bulky weight yarn. But then she mentions that it's a sport or DK weight, which is quite a big difference. So I don't know where's the mistake, but definitely not a bulky weight as for me. And it's also knit on 4.5 millimeter needles, so probably DK weight. I don't know, to be honest. I think we just should meet the gauge and maybe try with light DK weight or heavy sport weight. I don't know, or just decay. We need to hit gauge of 24 stitches per 10 centimeters and 30 or 32 rows per 10 centimeters. And I would go for Cascade 220 Sport. It's 100% Peruvian Highland wool, and what I love about Peruvian Highland wool, that is not scratchy, that is lightweight, and that is durable. At the same time, it's not too expensive, so everything makes it perfect, and I would go for this specific yarn. If it ends up too thin, there's always an option to add a lace thread to that. It can be either mohair or lace alpaca thread. The construction is exactly the same as all of the previous patterns I mentioned. So starting in the back, knitting the back panel, picking up stitches in the shoulder lines, knitting the front, already increasing for the deep v-neck, not knitting the ribbing, just the v-neck, and then connecting everything in the round, knitting down, knitting the sleeves, and then picking up stitches for the ribbing of the v-neck and knitting it up. I think you can experiment with 2x2 ribbing, 1x1 ribbing, or twisted 1x1 ribbing. It could be different and beautiful in all of these options. The next pattern is a Korean pattern again. It's called Need More Sweater by Nanhee Myung. It's a basic sweater and the designer is calling it Saglan construction. I'll speak about what she meant by that a bit later. Let's speak a little bit about the design. A quite boxy, oversized, basic raglan sweater that features a very beautiful curved line of the raglan, which I didn't see before, to be honest. Such an expressive curved line. I think it's going to be a beautiful experience learning about it and knitting this piece because it's different from all of the raglans that we have seen before. I would knit this piece in a very soft but durable yarn, which is of course a complicated goal to accomplish. But still, this piece deserves to be worn every day. I think it also deserves to be knitted in different yarn contents and in different colors and for a few members of the family because it looks quite unisex. I think it could be also knit for a man, and on Instagram I saw a few people knitting this for their husbands or boyfriends or brothers or fathers. So yeah, I would actually knit this for my father. That would be so cool. I just imagine him because the sleeves are also quite boxy and yeah, it would be looking so cool on him. Also, I would like to have this piece in a tweed yarn. Like for real, that's why it's called Need More Sweater, because once you knit one you will need another one. I think there is also a children's version where it has buttons or opening on the back. The design features quite interesting increases that I've never had before. I think it's mimicking the machine knitting when the increases are kind of crisscrossed under each other, which looks quite artistic as for me. It's a unique piece of the design, the increases themselves, and also the design mimics the seam. Basically a purl in the increase line as you're doing it is mimicking like it was seamed together, but it's not, you're just knitting in the round. I find it quite cool. The ribbing and neckline are done in 2x2 rib, and what I also love about this design is quite a deep neckline that is perfectly rounded. It's not like a perfect round, obviously, it's some kind of oval shape still, but it's quite hard to find in raglans, and I always appreciate when I find such pattern. What I don't get is why the designer didn't mention the size ranges in the Ravelry design page. I had to go on her Instagram and try to find her website. Everything is in Korean. She has many links available in the website. I went to each one of them trying to find it, and then finding the pattern. I finally did that and I got the picture. Why not to put that picture in the Ravelry design? That would be so nice. So I found it, and what I really loved, and I wish a lot of designers would do that, is to put this diagram that measures every single piece of the item that you're about to knit. So as you can see here on the screen, we can see the width of everything, the mainly important parts, and when picking up sizes I think is very, very important. Sometimes I'm very hesitant what size to pick because I don't like so much of a positive is, but I'm afraid to pick the smallest size because maybe the armhole depth is not going to be enough, and I'm always thinking, okay, maybe I will have to modify it myself, but I don't want to modify it because I'm buying the pattern. So well done to the designer that she mentioned each part of the sweater. Thank you very much. The recommended ease for the pattern is 11 to 12 centimeters, which is perfect, I think. I would go maybe for 8 or 10 centimeters personally. And the yarn weight is fingering. She doesn't specify what yarn she used on her Ravelry page. There's nothing to click on. So I just have a lot of yarn in my mind that I would use for this project. The pattern calls for 24 stitches per 10 centimeters, and I would use maybe Filcolana Pernilla, Sunday by Sadness Garn, or Bio Balance by BC Garn that has actually 50% cotton and 50% merino, or 70 to 30, I don't remember. So these are quite affordable options that will last. And if I would go for luxurious segment, I would probably go with Gepard Wild and Soft, held together with cashmere from Gepard as well. It's a lace weight cashmere, so that would create a bit more silky, a bit more drapey, but still a bit sturdy because of cashmere, and it would feel just incredible. So finally, about the construction, the designer calls her sweater Saglan sweater because it's a combination of her saddle shoulder and the raglan shoulder, and a raglan sweater. So I don't know exactly how you knit it because she doesn't tell you exactly stitch by stitch how you're going to knit the pattern, obviously, but I would like to try it. I don't know if she decided to create this construction for fun or it was actually necessary to achieve a good fit. I hope it was necessary to achieve a good fit, but actually it doesn't matter. I think she knows what she is doing because she also mentioned a few techniques that are named, and she says that they're her own personal techniques that she created. So I guess she has quite a lot of experience and I trust her, and I would for sure knit this pattern. Also, I'll just mention that again, the whole garment is knit top down seamlessly, no complicated stuff, just pay attention to the pattern and you should be fine with this. Maybe this could be a new door, an introduction to a new way of knitting raglans, who knows. The next pattern is Korean/French pattern. I'm saying that because the woman lives in France, but she's, I think, actually Korean. She collaborates quite a lot with different yarns that are based in Europe or even in France. I would like to even try a few yarns that she recommends in a few of her patterns that are very local French yarn brands. So all of her designs are quite Korean and she has a big Korean fan base. And the sweater I'm speaking is Baguette Sweater. This is a sweater I'm staring at for quite a while. It's been in my heart for quite a while, but I couldn't start it and I don't start it yet because it looks quite intricate for me. I'm always thinking I need a bit more experience and more patience developed, but right now I'm thinking I'm actually ready. So the sweater is mimicking baguette, but actually for me it looks like plants. I don't know, let me know how it looks for you. When I first saw this design, the first thing I pay attention for is how the seam is connected with the line of the cable, like half a romp on the sleeve. It looks just beautiful, I swear. This is what got my attention at first, and I'm still staring at it. It's really beautiful. I think it's quite feminine, but minimalistic at the same time and unisex. So it's a balance of everything at the same piece. I have to mention that what I've noticed is that the front is going to be a bit shorter than the back. I think it's due to the construction. This type of construction usually creates that. But even though I'm quite picky about it and I don't like so much when the front is shorter than the back, I think I will be fine with this in this specific sweater. The yarn choice is actually a collaboration. She collaborated with La Mana, and she's using La Mana Como Grande and La Mana Premia, which is a silk mohair. And La Mana Como Grande is 100% merino wool, carded. For me, it's too expensive. I don't think merino should cost that much, even though it's super lightweight and it's an amazing brand. So I have an option for that, which is Erica Wool Local Aran weight. It's also not so cheap, but at least it's way more realistic. And I would use it just on its own. It's also lightweight. And I would also maybe consider using Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino. I think their merino is also carded. I'm knitting right now with normal Knitting for Olive Merino, and what I can say, it is a carded wool. Fix me and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So if it's carded wool, it's going to be also more lightweight. For example, if we're thinking about Sunday Double Sunday, it's not carded, it's more shiny, flowy, heavy weight merino wool, where Knitting for Olive should be a bit more lightweight. With both options, you can use also additional mohair thread to create this little halo, but I think this design is so beautiful on its own that it doesn't need any halo to pop up. About the construction, there is no detailed explanation whatsoever. She just mentioned that it's top down and that it's charted. But this woman has quite a good reputation on Ravelry, and she collaborates with brands, and I think she's releasing her book in Korean only, unfortunately, right now. So I would trust her and I would purchase her pattern and just knit it and follow it. The next one is Korean, is Heart Chain Sweater from Mayo. And this sweater has hearts in it. Can you imagine that? I'm already melting because it's so cute, but it still looks adult-like and minimalistic. So it's barely noticeable that it's hearts that go all the way on the side of the body, connect in the shoulder in a perfect way, and then go behind. So this designer actually has only one pattern mentioned on Ravelry. Maybe she's just starting, but she has so many favorites and so many compliments on her Instagram. By the way, when you see Ravelry pages of mentioned patterns, you may notice that there are either no projects at all or a few projects, and it's just because Korean knitting community is not so much on Ravelry. They're on Instagram, and maybe they even have a different place or platform where they communicate and review the patterns of each other. So don't think that if the pattern doesn't have many projects, then it's just not popular. Sometimes I find the designer on Instagram, I find the pattern and there's like a Korean language hashtag. I click on it and I see so many beautiful finished items. So you could do that as well if you're really curious. The same with this sweater. It's actually freshly released, I think. And I just fell in love with this. First, I saved her progress in my Instagram all the time, and I was just praying, please release the pattern in English. And she did. What is interesting to see is how seamlessly a lot of different elements of the design go into 2x2 ribbing in the bottom of the garment and in the sleeves, except the middle part. And when designers are managing to do that, I really appreciate it. It's just something so satisfying about it. And the second thing I want to point out is how perfectly the pattern is aligned on the shoulder seam. Not many designers are able to do that, and I don't know if this designer did such beautiful integration with all of the sizes, but even if it's not, I don't care so much. What I care is the clarity of the pattern, beautiful knitting experience, and incredible wearable garment in my wardrobe. The yarn is not specified on Ravelry page, and I didn't waste my time trying to find what yarn she was using because maybe it's Korean and I don't have the access to that. Actually, I would like to try some of the Korean yarns. And the gauge is 18 stitches per 10 centimeters in stockinette, and the yarn is mentioned is worsted plus lace. I would maybe use DK plus lace, and it's knit on 5.5 millimeter needles. So my yarn options could be a few. Actually, some of them are more cheap and some of them are more expensive. So for more cheap, I would use Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool. I still didn't try this yarn yet. I know that it's not so heavy to the weight that it proposes. Plus combining, of course, with lace mohair, I think when it comes to a very cute, gentle, hard sweater, it's very nice to have mohair in it or Sura alpaca. And another cheap option could be Drops Lima, also actually maybe even by itself, because it's quite heavy yarn weight, or with mohair again. When I think about more expensive options, what comes to my mind is Rowan Moordale and Rowan Fine Lace held together. I would love to try that yarn combination, and I'm still a little bit seeking projects in my mind towards that yarn. Actually, there are many options for this project in the market. I would just make sure I'm not buying anything heavy. I'm making it lightweight, and I would keep that crispy look to not relax cables too much, to not lose all of this beautiful stitch pattern. By the way, if you choose any of the projects I'm speaking right now and you choose the yarn, let me know in the comments, because I'm always curious about what people choose for their projects. The construction. I could not find any information about the construction. The only information that I could find on her Ravelry and actually on her Korean website is that it's knitted top down and the pattern is written and has charts. Unfortunately, there is no detailed information, but I just have a feeling that it might be the same or similar to all of these previous constructions. The problem is that when I went to her Korean website, I saw a few very cute, beautiful other heart-related patterns that are only in Korean, and my brain is asking me to make my life more complicated by trying to knit a Korean pattern just using a Google Translate. I have 3 more patterns to share, but the light is going off and I don't think it's smart to just keep going. So I'm not going to keep pushing this, and I'll just leave these 3 patterns for the video part 2. And I want to thank you for watching this video, if you did till the end. Let me know if you picked anything, and if you did, please write me the name of the pattern that you picked and the yarn choice that you're thinking to knit this with. Besides that, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon in my next video.